everybody, and welcome back to the Writer's Hive, where we meet bi-weekly to discuss the writing and publication process in the hopes of creating a writer's hive mind with you. Today, we are going to be talking about writer's block and all of the tools in our toolbox for avoiding and breaking through it. We're going to start off with Katlyn today.
Writer's block happens. I used to be of the mindset where I said, oh, it doesn't happen, but it does. And for many different reasons. It could be you're stuck in the story because if you are a plotter, maybe you didn't plot enough, or you're dealing with something at work or anything like that. So it does happen, but that doesn't mean that you have to stop writing or stop creating, because there's many different ways you can create. And as a number one intellection with Clifton strengths, I tend to have to think a lot, and it doesn't always involve putting things on the page. So I have a few tips about how I get through writer's block. When I am able to identify my writer's block as something plot related, and I sort of feel like I know my story enough, and it may just be something very small, a transition, I'll do a technique known as reverse outlining, where I sort of take where I'm trying to get next and work my way backwards. I ask myself questions on, I want to be here. How do I get there? And go step by step by step. I do have a video on my channel all about that if you care to watch after this. I found that the tool GMC by Deborah Dixon. It's a book. So quite an old book at this point, but it's definitely something that helps me out. Sometimes if I'm having an issue with character and I need to figure out their motivations or anything like that, I will sort of marry reverse outlining and GMC to make sure I'm still on the right track, because as a plotter, I tend to want to stay on the plot. I also find that distance helps. So if I have been in the drafting process or the revision process for a while, as much as it hurts, I may spend one morning where I usually write. I may do something else. It's not procrastination necessarily, but usually I just need to keep thinking about it. I tend to listen to music when I write. I usually make a playlist per book or per series, depending on what I'm writing. And also something that I've discovered during the past 2 years is my love for puzzles. I had severe writer's burnout 2020 after lockdown, and the only thing I could do was puzzles. And I did enough very, very difficult 1,000 piece puzzles that had like maybe 3 colors per puzzle. So that's not really fun. And I was able to start listening to audiobooks and things like that. And that really sort of got me out of my writer's block. But I didn't write for about 2 months at that point. And that's the longest stint, I think, since I started publishing. So those are just a few techniques that I use. I'm very internal when I'm with my story, and when I come up with issues, I tend to go to those things first before, you could always talk to friends about it as well. But I'll let the other 2 ladies talk about their methods.
It's funny how sometimes you can see that how other people handle it similarly to you and completely different as well. Because like you, I went through in 2020 a weird, Panasonic burnout, and I turned to diamond painting. Julie actually talked me into trying diamond painting with her, and we were diamond painting, listening to audiobooks and like crushing it and getting through them. Was I writing? No, but I was kind of getting out of my own head and relearning my love for just books in general and listening to audiobooks. And a lot of times reading can get you excited to write because you can just remember how much you love words on a page. Another thing that I do is I would like to bounce ideas off of someone. A lot of times that will spark ideas if I'm stuck. It always gets me excited about something usually, and I can write down some ideas, even if those ideas aren't ready to be fleshed out into a full-fledged story yet. They can at least plant some seeds. And sometimes just good old-fashioned sitting on the couch, watching an old TV show that you don't have to think about, and just vegging for a day or two, and just let yourself think about it. Like you said, intellection, just think and not have to worry about feeling bad that you're not writing. For me, at least, most of the time is going to be one of 2 reasons. It's going to be something like mental health wise, whether that's burnout or depression or anxiety or writer's doubt or anything like that. Or it's going to be, I literally just don't know where I want to take this story. And so those 2 things, either vegging out on the couch, diamond painting, puzzling, knitting, crocheting, whatever your hobby of choice is, bouncing ideas, those two things are the things that probably help me the most get out of the funks that I get in because when I'm not writing, it exacerbates the problem. Like the block gets worse and worse if I don't try something.
I am high intellection in terms of the Clifton strengths, but I have my achiever, my focus, some of my other driving forces are a little bit stronger than that for me. For me, I can't just sit and say like, oh, I'll watch a TV show or I'll do this or I'll do that. I tend to push through those moments, and not like in an unhealthy, I'm driving myself into the ground kind of a way. I've gotten a lot better about giving myself a little bit of space or a night off to just read if I'm really, really not in the correct headspace. But what I have found really helpful, and I have only Katlyn to thank for this because I would never have done it on my own. Once I have goals set, I really don't stop unless I've achieved them. And that has really stopped me from setting quarterly goals, yearly goals, lifelong goals with my writing career. Katlyn kind of pushed me to just say, like, listen, dream big, put down whatever you can possibly think of wanting for each book, each series, each idea you have, like get it down on paper. So that if one project really does start to lapse, I have another one that I can work on for a little bit that might reinvigorate me. I'm in a cycle right now that's really helpful where I might be editing one while publishing another. I always have at least two things kind of going simultaneously so that if one project starts to frustrate me, I can focus a little bit more on another one for a little bit. I think that that's really, really helpful. One of my favorite practices for when something feels too large or too overwhelming, whether it's edits, drafting, is to step back and do what I love on a micro level. So I love to do flash fiction. I might just take a night and just find a picture that inspires me, or an idea that inspires me, or a character that I'm really loving in my story, but I know this little tiny tidbit about them that'll never make it into the book, but I really want to write it, and I might write a little side chapter or a little short story, just something to kind of get out of my own head when the big picture of a book kind of overwhelms me. Taking that back down to a scene level or chapter level might help, instead of thinking about the book as a whole, this giant 100,000+ word book. If I take that down to like a 4,000 word chapter, can sometimes alleviate some of that pressure. I do not have what they call in Clifton Strengths high ideation. I plot and I plan, and then once I realize that might not be good enough, I kind of get stuck and I'm like, I don't really know what to do here, but I know it needs something. So kind of taking that to other writers or other friends and saying, hey, I really need to push myself here, push my characters here. What could I do that would be really impactful? Like in this moment, what do you think would be like something you would like to see or something that would surprise you? And then we can kind of spitball ideas. Really effective for me in breaking through whatever is kind of stopping me in that moment, which leads me right back to the writing community. Being a part of a writing community, finding online live writing sprints, finding people that are going through the same kinds of things as you can be really, really helpful in realizing that you're not alone. It happens to everybody. It is something that you can get through, and it is something you can move past. I really depend on those Sunday night writing sprints that I do, my productivity sprints every Sunday night, because even if I find myself blocked during the week, I know when I get to those writing sprints, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to push myself through because there's accountability there. I want to have something to show for myself, for them. And I want to show up there every week and kind of give it my all. So I know that come that Sunday night sprint, the time for kind of procrastinating is over.
And speaking of writing sprints, I wanted to sort of bring it down to more of a micro level in terms of writer's block within a writing session. Throughout the years, I was a freelance writer, and I also worked toward deadlines from a publisher. So a lot of times there are other people waiting for those words to come out. The reason I used to be so against writer's block, like saying it didn't exist, is because I thought of it as people waiting for the muse, which I don't subscribe to. If you do, that's fine. But I think as a working writer, like you can't necessarily wait for some divine inspiration to tell you what to write or to flow through you into what to write. Some smaller things that you can do during a writing session, say you write, 2 hours a day or even 2 hours a week. If you feel like when you sit down, you just can't write for any reason. Like I said, playlist that may help you if you're an auditory person. Mundane tasks. I know when I'm on deadline, my house looks really clean because I sort of start cleaning my house to start thinking about things. I'll go vacuum my room or I'll clean my bathroom or something. People get a lot of ideas in the shower. So if you haven't showered that day, go jump right in and think about your story. Also, too, if you are someone who needs to move around a bit or even just needs fresh air, definitely go outside. I remember during our writer's retreat last fall, I was in this beautiful inspirational setting, but I felt stuck. And I always found going outside, breathing in fresh air, and just thinking for a few minutes.
One of the best resources is just find your community. Just find writers that you can talk to, because we all experience it one way or another. And just sometimes talking about it and figuring out why you're stuck may help you push past it, even if you're not a high achiever and can push past it anyway. Like making goals and setting them out does not help me whatsoever, but it does. Like if you just talk to your writer friends, just find writers. They don't have to live in the same country as you. They don't have to live in the same city as you. There's so much online, spaces for people that are writing, and just be able to talk through it with them can really help.
And I will also mention for myself, Pinterest boards. I know that that's something that Amber does a lot in our sprints too. When she gets stuck, she's like, oh, I went on and I did Pinterest boards and kind of organized my feelings or my vibes or my, thoughts on a story or a character on there. Those can be very, very helpful, whether it's direct inspiration for a scene or a character, or it's just a general aesthetic for a story. It can be one of those things where people say, oh, don't procrastinate, you should be writing. When you're in those moments, if you're stuck and you go back to your playlist or you go back to your inspiration Pinterest board, you can kind of remind yourself where you were, what you were doing, or you can maybe tune it a little bit. Maybe you need to hone in on something a little bit more. So I think that all of those can be really, really helpful. And I think too many people see it as a procrastination technique to either avoid starting writing or continuing writing, but it can, if used properly, be a very, very useful tool for breaking through some kind of writer's block. In a comment down below, we would love to know for the question of the episode, how you personally break through your writer's block. Share so that we can learn from you and continue to grow as a community of writers. Thank you for being a part of our writing community and thereby helping us break through our own writer's block. We will see you in 2 weeks' time with our first ever guest. So definitely tune in to see who that is and what we have to discuss. We will see you in our next episode. Bye, everybody.
How do you overcome writer's block?
Okay, here we go. Crushed it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Writer's Block, where we are a bi-weekly... No, we're not.
Welcome back to the Writer's Block.
That's what I said. That's what I said. That's what I said.
You jinxed yourself.
No.
Not only are we talking about writer's block, but me and Julie actually used to be a part of a podcast called The Writer's Block.
That was The Writer's Block.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
It really starts to frustrate. That's not a word.
When other people talk, it triggers it, and then I know what I want to say. Because I'm a pantser.
Then pants it, bitch.